We saw that.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I will be talking today about, I am Yssah, and I will be talking about the plasma body tech and genetic interdimensional travel. So, what is this? Well, according to quantum physics, we live in an interconnected universe. So, whatever happens within is an expression, whatever happens without is an expression of what is happening within. And mainly, when we talk about the infinite field of probabilities where all the information resides, perhaps we think of a very specific place located somewhere, in a very specific dimension. And the thing is that it's expanded everywhere because when we're talking about dimensions, it's not only like, okay, guys, we're just now here in the fourth dimension. Actually, we're interacting simultaneously with all the dimensions. This is why we are wholeness. So when we want to do, like inner shifts, for instance, transcending memories, when we want to activate our DNA, deactivate some of it, then we normally tend to think that our DNA is not connected to the unified field, to the space memory network, or how it's mostly known as a quantum akasha, you know? But the thing is that what I have seen is that this space-time fabric is actually the reflection of our DNA. I don't know how you guys have visualized the space-time fabric, perhaps as a fabric, fabric clothes, which is very specific filaments that are intertwined together. But this is not linear. And actually, the space memory network behaves just as our DNA. Our DNA is not just intertwined, as is a spiral swirling. Actually, our DNA is very dynamic. It creates rings. Those rings is, they call it supercoiled DNA, or even as we see in ancient Egyptian glyphs, it creates these curvatures that are pointing out to the specific behaviors of our DNA when it's activating or deactivating the information within it. So this happens also in the space memory network. When we talk about going back in time, we have very specific patterns that are parallelly syncing to our DNA. So every time that we're going through a hypnosis process, every time that we are, like commanding our DNA through epigenetics or whatever, the space memory network is simultaneously shifting. Every time that we shift our DNA, we're shifting the timeline. Why? Because they are entangled. You know, if we think that we are the universe, like for instance, are we in my reality or are we in Mike's universe? Mine. Or Sean, or like whoever. The thing is that here is an image, like it says real image of DNA. But the thing is that there is also superimposing processes, and we see that in ancient Egyptian glyphs. And then we ask, what is that? You know, and they were talking about how to restore your DNA, how you need to cure or bend space time actually to activate or restore a specific memory. So we can achieve that just by command, and this is one thing that I love about it. When we think that we are only stuck in a 3D, like in this simulation matrix, and knowing that it could be a simulation, but we think that we are matter and, like compressed molecules that have an infinite field, I mean, a finite field, then we leave the holographic or holofractalographic part out of the equation. And this is fundamental for multidimensionality. Without the awareness of the holofractal field, it's very much impossible for us to attain everything that we say. It couldn't be possible. It's like, okay, I'm just limited to this physical form, and then I cannot, you know, do anything else because time is linear and so forth. And the thing is that we are so dynamic that this is how we get to shift everything that we want to shift through the holofractal field. Why? Just imagine, for instance, we have this image of the tetrahedron star, and here we have how holograms work, basic setup. So you have a piece of information, and then you project a laser beam to that physical form, and then that will be projected as a hologram. So there is a reality which is called the space memory network where all the information is packed up. And then you project plasma laser to that. And then it projects as a hologram. So perhaps what we are seeing right now is a reflection of this dimension, like this pocket dimension where all the codes are being beamed with laser and then projected into a hologram. You know, who created this pocket dimension and who created this constricted reality? Those ones who know how the whole fractal field works, those who know how to create matrices. Some people call them architects. Some people call them archons. Some people call them why? Because there are different levels of consciousness, and there are beings that are capable to create these lattices. You know, these let's say cities of quantum reality, and then start projecting that to different consciousnesses, in this case us. So now, so there is for instance, William Brown and other scientists that say that we are now in the fourth dimension, in the fourth density, as I was mentioning yesterday, and I'm in very much present. Again, not being isolated from all the dimensions, because of course everything is happening simultaneously, but in a way that, in terms of percentage, we are more into that simulation, into this hologram. But this is not a prison. This is not an imprisonment. This is why this can be also the gateway to actually access and achieve whatever we want. Why? Because if this is a hologram and I access to the quantum, then I am able to see through this space all the particles of light that are compressed, creating a reality, and start shifting them, as I am capable to shift my DNA, as I am capable to shift any program, that I can do it through the holographic field, like algorithms and codes, as the very same movie, The Matrix, you know? And also a huge force to achieve that is geometry. I don't know if you have seen these videos now that they are creating on Python, I think with a Python program, that there is a person moving, and then you see all the filaments of light that are coming from that person moving and creating all these symmetrical geometries or asymmetrical patterns, you know? So the thing is that when we have our plasma body fortified enough, we are capable to influence those filaments and actually shift realities. This is why a lot of monks just go into meditative states and go in introspective mode, because it requires a lot of focus. And this reality has been designed to distract us, because that distraction equals decoherence. Focus equals coherence. So it's like just an example of the bathtub, like if you remove the plug to for the water to go through the drain, you will have the inner circle, which is the most coherent state, and you will have the decoherent state that are all the waves collapsing with one another. That is distraction. Focus is the inner circle where everything is more aligned and synchronized. So now, I was talking also yesterday about the voxels, and these voxels are, let's say, the PSU, which is spherical, uh, the plant spherical units. And imagine that the space memory network is full of these spheres. So this is why I was saying also yesterday, like if you want to access to any packet of information, you can. Anybody can. Like for instance, I want to access to the informational sphere of that spectral sphere, regardless its origin. Whether it's if it's human, non-human, I want to access to that field. Okay, so you go within and then you say, okay, track it. Where is that field of information within my molecular structure? Okay, so, and then once you track it, you can go to the space memory network and create a nexus. This is super important, a trine nexus. Why trine? Because everything goes, or at least the fundamentals of the universe go through trinities. This is why 369 as the vector equilibrium, because even our own molecular structure, like we see the water, our water molecular structure. So when we are generating high resonance and our water is like working as plasma, even though it cannot be fully plasma, but as this level of coherence, it will start creating triplets of triplets, terahertz, trine groups. So that's at the highest level of coherence that our biology, can manifest, trine groups. If you want to empower and activate your plasma body, you need to create 9 toruses, you know? So again, everything working around 3, 6, 9, this trine groups. So now, and when we listen about the tree of life, for instance, or here a different type of lattices, you know. So this is why a lot of people that use the sacred plants, one of the visions that they have is that they see everything in geometries, you know, because that is an upgrade in the perception. Because if I want to connect with you, it's easier for me to connect with you through my geometrical body and not through I want to touch you. It's like just I project my plasma body, and that's how psionics work, through the plasma body, through the unlimited field. So, and it's very important to harness that. So here am I showing how all this is interconnected. We have different stories, ancient stories about the weaver, the spider. And sometimes we think like that's whether woo woo or spooky, or there is something bad about it. But the thing is that look how these groups of voxels are connected as spiders. You know, I don't know if you get to see the filaments here in between the spheres, but those are like spiders. And all of that is happening in the space memory network. So I will show you an image in a bit of how it is like dynamically flowing. So here is the communion of the neurons and the quantum field and in this image and the voxels. So every time that you are activating or deactivating, if you communicate, and you see and you feel how your DNA is the reflection of the space memory network. Imagine, like everything that you're activating and deactivating is generating ripples in the time, as a collective. Now there is another important thing here. Why do you think that we can travel, that we can interdimensional travel? Like if you go through a hypnosis, you know, how can you be truly shifting your past if you're just limited to a body, to a physical body? And the thing is that our DNA, in each one of the segments of the codons, we have octahedrons that are being formed. And it's all numerical values, guys. You can just do the maths, but it all adds up that for every segment of DNA, we have octagons that then become, and you will see, that then become hypercubes or tesseract. So our DNA is going, is like inherently, interdimensionally traveling, is going through the continuum of the space time. Every time that we access to a memory, every time that we remember about something, our DNA is generating this and this torsion. I call it torsion, which is implosion and expansion. You know, so we have all the power. This is why they have also compressed it to very specific technologies, to try to put that our our DNA is steady. They don't only show the cube, but they don't show the cube in motion. When the cube is in motion, then it's actually, you see the octagon, the shadow of the hypercube or the tesseract, so, and there is something very interesting that I will show you now. So, well, we know the correlation. I won't go deep into this, but we know that there are very specific religions, ancient structures, and for instance, the pyramids. We know that they just did a SAR scan, well, last year, and there were these tubes, the cylinders below the Khafra pyramid, and below those cylinders, two cubes. When you put two cubes together, you get this pattern, this bidimensional pattern, which is the octagon. So, and the pyramids are mirroring into our pyramidal neurons, because our pyramidal neurons, not only in our brain, in our heart, and in our dog brain, have something that is called microtubules. And these microtubules are in charge of generating the synapses, that which through dipole behavior is what is creating constantly consciousness. So those pyramids are a reflection of our own biological tech. So I do feel and I do remember that the level of unity consciousness at some point was so strong that the pyramids were there, but they were commanded through a unified mind of all the people there that were looking for the same purpose. We're talking before distortion and all of those things. Why? Because one of the purposes of these pyramids was to keep free energy. And there cannot be free energy outside if there is not free energy within. And free energy within requires being capable to be in a unity consciousness. Because whoever tries to build a community or be in unity consciousness, and if that person is not sovereign, they won't achieve it because ego will flare up, and there will be a lot of lacks that will filter in, and then free energy, just collapses, So now, all these technologies are mirroring again. And the thing, and with Chronos, how Chronos was tried to be established, they left the feminine aspect of Chronos outside of the equation. But it's hilarious because we see that the Islam shows a lot of the moon, like a lot of the feminine energy. They are bowing to the floor, and the floor is the earth, and it's the feminine, So, but there is a story that hasn't been told. And the thing is that the Kaaba originally was in Jordan, in Petra. And there are very specific structure, the settlement, that shows a cubic temple. And if you go to the ancient texts, it talks about raising not as a cult, not as a religion, but honoring a divine feminine trinity of Allah or Allahi. Rings a bell? Allah. Allah didn't exist. It was Allah. Before the Prophet Muhammad received the stones from Archangel Gabriel, Allah didn't exist. It was Allahi or Allah. Manna, which was related to the moon and to Saturn, time, and Alusa, which was related to Venus and Jupiter. So now, what's the implications of this regarding to the interdimensional portal? Otherwise, I will be expanding into another topic. But the thing is that if we really want to be aware of how we can interdimensional travel, we need to bring back the feminine aspect in time. Why? Because the time, the Gregorian calendar makes no sense at all. It's all distorted. So it's based on a system that wants to control. And the way to go beyond that control is by bringing back the beat of the heart, which could be related to that feminine aspect, which is the rhythm of life, the cycles of the woman's period, bleedings, and so forth. That cycle of life. It's related, and I'm not saying, yeah, woman. No, I'm just saying, like I'm talking about energies, what are also present in men. So that aspect truly, and right now we're seeing it in reality. If you want to plan on something, it's like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And then things will come and then you won't be able to get it. Why? Because the earth is showing us that there is another time that it's not any longer fitting with the Gregorian calendar and with the chronos system, like running to survive, which is that which they have ensured the survival, the huge survival. So now, when we're saying that we will go beyond all of this, nonsense of the linear time and incubated realities and just all of us being fixed into a specific paradigm, then here is an image of Saturn, okay, because there is another. In the ancient artifacts, you will see that the image of Saturn is very much present, everywhere. But the thing is that what level of consciousness of Saturn, what they were talking about. So perhaps it was not fixed to a sixth dimension, yet to a ninth dimension, where, because the power that each one of these planets have as codes, because when I see how these realities configured, I can see algorithms, and I see that every planet has a very specific code, and it's reinforced based on the egregor that nourishes it, that fits it. So every time that I say Saturn, it goes bing, directly into that egregor, and it's more anchored. Kronos, bing, and goes into it until I redefine what it truly means to me. So now here I show some images of Akhenaten, like this famous king of ancient Egypt. They say, and I agree, that he was the last member of the galactic community. So, like, here come the scholars and academics and saying he had a religion and he believed that the sun was God. Okay, so you're talking about a civilization that was highly advanced. I really doubt that they would think that sun was God or that God was the sun. Like for me, it makes no sense. So then I started diving into, and then I say, wow, this hieroglyph, it really doesn't mean the solar disk. What it means is the orb, and what is an orb? It's plasma. So he was showing plasma as the source of life. So they were using a lot of plasma. We know that at that time, plasma was like, you know, flowers to us. It's like pretty accessible and attainable. Like even if we see quotes about the scarab, we know that the scarab levitates, and you can levitate actually when you harness the way in which the plasma um, and the plasma works in relation to the gravitational field. So, for instance, I'm showing here all these codes. Here there's this an ancient cube made of calcite, and it shows all these Egyptian glyphs. The scarab, with the levitation properties, the pyramid, and then this constant eye. Another thing, I don't have it in this slideshow, but if you see through a telescope the image of Saturn, it creates an eye. It really creates an eye. Again, I'm not saying that, I'm just talking about the power that, in this case, this planet, this algorithm has in this reality. This is why they knew how to use it. This is why they use it to anchor a lot of uh, this reality that we're experiencing, that we're rendering. So now we will see all these type of ancient symbols, and again, I bring the cube. So the hypercube, remember that I was telling you at the beginning of this talk, that if we take into consideration that every time that we talk about the simulation matrix, we're talking about a holographic reality. So, and how this holographic reality is connected to the hypercube, the capability of travel interdimensionally. So here, Osiris is always shown well, most of the depictions, not all of them for sure, but sitting on a throne, but that throne has a smaller cube. So it's representing the hypercube. One of the things that it's representing is the hypercube. You see, it's the same image, just a different position. So he's showing the mastery over the hologram. And we know that Osiris is very much related to the Christ consciousness. And we also have the trinity of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Well, through their Greek names. Those are not their original Egyptian or Kemetic names. But anyway, so he's showing the mastery over the hologram. And even the kings, they would say that after their death, as we call now death, because they were reaching the eternal life, they would become Osiris. So again, they were pointing out to an exit of this reality through the mastery of the hologram. And the hologram works through the plasma. This is why all of this was erased from the equation. Because if we're not aware of the power of plasma, how can we explain that we live in an interconnected universe, knowing that plasma is that, plasma at different scales? For instance, the space that separates us is filled in with Planck plasma, or the fundamental unit of plasma, PSU. So this is why I was talking about psionics. If I acknowledge that my body is plasma, and then I expand through the particles of Planck plasma that are all the way to Tom, then I am touching him, as I, and then he says hi, So it's about training and remembering, that aspect of reality. So, and these are huge codes that were not only about, and now the frequency, the 444. So all of these measurements, that we see in the Chacana or the Andina cross. This is a picture, the one above. Do you see the arrow? Okay. So this is an image that I created by pixeling this black dot. What does it create? It creates the chacal. So what they are showing is that for every dot, every black dot, it's creating this pattern. And if you put together a lot of these crosses, then you're creating the holofractal field, you know, or the holographic. Let's say better the holographic, because there are different space-time geometries that actually interact with this holographic field. But I'm talking about the fundamentals. Now, this is below, you will stop the video here. So we will see all of this, even though I love this image. Like you have a curved figure and then you just throw light at it and then the shadow, what does it show? You know? And it's the same. If you get a cube, a see-through cube, and you project light to it, you will see in the shadow the octagon. You know? So I mean the tetrahedron star. You know? So it is it just mesmerizes me, you know, like how all this reality is showing that our body is not attained to anything physical. Well, of course, and to some extent, otherwise my mass will be spread all around here, like these movies uh, of The Thing. I don't know if you remember that movie. So. But so I want to show you guys because this famous star that is present in the Shamash tablet, you know, with the disc that the god Shamash of the sun has. This is the cymatics of 5,201 hertz. Not this one. There's this Shamash figure. Oh yeah, this is fair. Yesterday I was struggling with the yeah there. Okay, so this, if you put 5,201 hertz into some platinum plates, it will give you this pattern, you know? And then we will see this very interesting sign that Shamash is holding, that looks like an omega. And we will see that Inanna also has very much that code. What could that represent besides the omega? Where there are different things. One of them is precisely according to Einstein's field equations. He talks about the cured space-time, closed time-like cures, which is the capability of going back in time. But then you will see, hey, but wait, can we go to the future? Well, first of all, we know that time is not linear. But if we establish, you know, by taking into consideration this reality that we have nourished as truth, then we will see that we are like this is constantly, they were showing that they were not only mastering the hologram, you know, like the same cubic throne, yet that they were capable to go back in time. What are we talking about now? The Stargates, you know? And the thing about going back in time is equivalent to going forward in time. Why? Because once you're forward, you see everything is past, you know, and once you're in your present and it was your present, it's not your present anymore, it's your past. So once you break the rule, to say it somehow, which is sometimes rules are fun to break, that once you do it, then you're always going back to the past because you have already been there, you know. So it's just a matter of perception. And this thing, it's happening continuously in our DNA. We are doing that. We are interdimensionally traveling at all time through our memory. And now, like this is the pattern, you know, if we go into the physics of it, and we will see that it's creating also like a type of coned um, octagon, right? Here, yeah, a type of octagon, which is actually the property of the vacuum field. Not only compressing itself yet expanding, it creates this octagonal form, you know, but it's not fully, linear because it's dynamic. Again, it's the vacuum. So why I'm telling you this, guys, it's not only because I find it interesting and I say, yeah, what the heck, why not? It's mostly because actually I found that this way is a very effective form to command our DNA and actually not only reach more intimate levels of communicating with our inner selves, yet actually getting more results in our reality. It's like, for instance, okay, so every time that you spin, let's say a coin, you spin it and right in its epitome, of its spin, it and the climax of its spin is creating a sphere. So this is why also every time that I translate these ancient codes, every glyph becomes a sphere, and every sphere is intertwined to the space memory network, to these those PSU. So you're signaling from everything all the information of the space memory network. The iCloud, everything was inspired on our own capability to access to the Akasha. It's just a reflection. This is not about a God, showing to you his tongue. It's talking about portal. It's talking about a portal. It's talking about the dynamic interaction of very specific cymatics. It's talking to you about a stargate. It's talking to you about way more than just people bending down to honor, a rock. If they were building pyramids, how? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that they were then bowing to honor or to praise the image of a rock of something else if they had so much technology. So I always like to question myself about all of these things, and this is, well, I have run into very, at least for me, impressive discoveries. So all of these are artifacts that we have found, and they are showing, like all these ancient encrypt the depictions. And so, and here are the cymatics. You see, here is the 5,201 hertz that I was talking about this disk. So even this is one of the things that I want to start doing is to put um, some let's say this to plug some cables to very specific artifacts to see what's the energy that they are emitting. And perhaps on artifacts is a little bit rough, but with other ancient technologies that are showing, because I know that they won't only be giving away very specific cymatics, yet even a specific, language communicating with us. Because I know that that's what many of those are trying to do, communicate with us. So now, oh well, just a little bit. Super important. What is the element that is mostly present in our field? Water, right? So, but then again, that's what we are being told because actually it's plasma. Like at least what I feel, what I remember is that everything is plasma, just at different gradients. 99.9999999% of the universe is made of plasma, and the rest is cooled plasma. So this is why it's ether, it's the quintessence, and so forth. The thing is, the water has the properties to behave as plasma, very coherent, as time crystals. So this is why they have also polluted so much our water. Because if our water is polluted, then the water that we're bringing into our body is contaminating as well our emotions and our capability to connect to the space memory network. Because this is easier than we thought. You know, if we do the basics, this is way easier than we thought. I mean, the new generations look at the kids, you know, you don't need to teach them barely anything. You know, you just need to hold the space for them to be, you know, and offer them a safe space, you know, to for them to be themselves without all the pollution that they're trying to imprint in their minds. So now just moving forward because I wanted to show to you a little bit of okay, here we go. So for instance, I was also talking about time. So here we have different types of DNA. And the thing is that the DNA in our telomeres is also creating pyramidal structures, as well as the water when it is structured water. It is creating tetrahedral structures. So, and now this is, if you see, well, behind of this, this is the image of of DNA, you know, a chain of DNA made of octagons, all put together, octagon by octagon by octagon. And if you place how the telomere structure looks like, the DNA telomere structure looks like, it fits perfectly. It's all, this is the part of holofractal, because I want to be very clear. You know, holographic would be what we would call this simulation reality, or any reality that is projected just holographically into a finished form. Holofractal, it is the awareness that everything fits dynamically. Everything. It's like not this chiral aspect of ourselves. Like for instance, if I want to overlap this, they won't fit. This is chirality. This is very much present in this reality. But when we're talking about holofractal reality, I am able to overlap everything. And this reality was based and configured through the flow. What am I talking about? I don't know if you have ever measured your body to see if it is equally proportioned. You know, if your arms measure the same, if your feet, they're, it's not, they're not. And even if you go to a mosque, you will see that there is always a flaw. Always. You know, you will see the perfect pattern of all the mosaics coming together. And then out of the blue, you will see this mosaic that was on purpose put, that it's breaking the law of perspection. You know? So flaw can be related to entropy. I'm not saying it's the same entropy. I'm not talking bad about entropy, but I'm just saying, you know, and for instance, every time that we are structuring our water, it's amplifying the levels of negentropy. So we're bringing harmony and order into our reality. We are allowing that beauty to be within us because it's already there. You know, we're just allowing it to be, to express itself. So now, this is a representation of the famous tree of life of the Kabbalah. I know that there are many mixed feelings about the Kabbalah. I don't want to go there, but I just want to say that um, there are some spheres that we could put there, and they would be creating other type of dynamical algorithms. You know, like for instance, they usually don't show the sphere that it's here. And again, spheres, sephiras. Where do you think that word is coming from? From the PSU, the Planck spherical units, because they encoded, they mastered the whole of this field, you know, this space memory network. So they are bringing that behavior of this of that field to actually create a limited field and then configure the blueprint of the human. You know, like as when you're rendering a program, you take part of source, you bring it, you make it more compact, then you just miss a little bit of the codes, and then you run the program, and then you'll say, let's see how that behaves. It's the same. The thing is that the sphere that they normally don't show, which is placed here at the heart, is the act. And the main memories that are inactive, the main neurons that are inactive and that they want to deactivate are the memories in the heart, because those memories are the ones that brings us to the primordial memory, you know, to bring in who we truly are. This is why disconnect from your heart. No, love hurts. Don't you dare to, you know, like all these type of things that we have all been through. But the thing is that the less that we empower our heart, the more that amnesia prevails in this reality. So now, when we complete this tree of life with 13 spheres, this figure fits with the Mayan calendar the other way around, because the Mayan calendar is open and it's showing a DNA sequence. Actually, the Mayans say that the DNA is entangled to time. For them, every day, you're activating a fragment of your DNA. But then that is not told, that's not what we heard, right? You know, there are they completely two different constructions of reality. So, but we will see that the pattern of the Mayan DNA is open. You see it here, you know, it's in red with blue. It's open. And the pattern of the tree of life of the Kabbalah is closed. Why do I say it's the same? Here. Here's the Mayan one. When you do this, oh, um, actually, it's more like when you synchronize it. There. Um, I love doing videos, but that's the only thing, you know. It's like okay, and we'll stimulate. Just breathe in all the codes, and then uh, okay, so there it is. Well, anyway, so how I was telling you, then it's the first there it is. Okay. Yay, I did it. Okay, so if you here you will see that you have the Mayan DNA. Okay, but if you just move it a little bit, you just move it a little bit, then it's creating this shape. And look where this shape overlaps perfectly in, which is the tree of life. So one is open mainly. That's where I was heading. One is open and the other one is closed. Are both necessary? Yes. For the bridge, it is. And according to how the quantum field behaves in order to generate consciousness, it is, because you need two poles. You need two poles of something in order to generate a singularity. But we need the completion of both poles. And this is what we are facing right now as a humanity. And it's very important for us to understand how it works. We need to create equivalently shadow and equivalently light. It cannot all be light or it cannot all be shadow. We need to create equivalently those two poles for the singularity, for the vacuum, the torsion to be, and then reach that singularity of consciousness, you know? So this is why and don't worry, guys, like if there is a lot of shadow and darkness in the world, we don't need to be the same amount of people. Because with few people, with 20% expanding a lot of our law, we are capable to generate that equivalence, So now, well, here it shows, like how it is all connected and mirroring to all these aspects, and the importance actually of how this interdimensional travel can be achieved by knowing how your DNA functions. So, for instance, here is that I wanted you to see this. So these are the voxels, what would be known as, this is how I see them in my mind, at least, So this is the field, like let's say the space-time fabric. And then in every intersection, you have a voxel, This is why in the tablets of thought, it says, or thought, he says, if you want to interdimensional travel, well, he doesn't say it in those words, I was clarified. But if you want to travel in time, don't go through the corners. Don't go through the corners. Why? Because it's like a spider web, It's like if you touch the spider web, then you get stuck. But if you flow around it, then you're capable to, stay safe. So it's something similar to that. It's a little bit more complex, I must say, but it's also related to the cube, and even the chakana. Remember the chakana?
Yes.
The Atlantean cross. Okay, so there is a code. Are you familiar to the throne of Isis, the one that she has in her head?
Yeah.
If you multiply that by 4, you will get the edges of the chakana. So she is that energy that is creating what's happening inside. So that again, it's if you want to interdimensional travel, you always go to the center. Otherwise, you will be reaching the coherence, and you don't want that. But anyway, so now. Okay, plasma knots as activators. This is super important. What is the idea that you guys have of a knot? When you're talking about it. Hey, Mike, I saw last time that you had an energetic knot. What is that about?
It means you're tied up and restricted.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Adriana?
The same thing. You stressing about something, and you kind of energy. There's a lot of energy blockage that is not moving through.
Okay. I agree. And interestingly enough, our DNA, every time that it's going to activate or deactivate a sequence, it supercoils itself, which is it knots itself. So those knots are necessary to activate or deactivate very specific sequences. It's the torsion. It's going beyond the algorithm at a mesoscale, at a genetic level. And, like this, look at this skull, it's showing perfectly the supercoiled DNA. It's showing how to activate and deactivate. Now, overlap this in your brain. It will fit, like all this supercoiled DNA right here. What if one day you say, hey, why not? And you practice and you start empowering your plasma field, and then deriving it all the way to your brain. And then projecting that you're supercoiling the strand of your neuronal network there. What neuronal network? Whatever, the one that you want to activate, a new timeline. And then see what happens. Because for me, all of this is non-random. It was not like, I think this figure would look beautiful in that part of the skull. Perhaps, yes. I think that if we feel that if we know how the Matrix communicates with us, it's telling us a little bit more about the story of why this image has that. And I will share with you why. One of the things that I discovered, I know that a lot of people relate the key of life to the womb, right? Which is, I do see it. The other thing is that, of course, we have all these technologies, this that they would use that Tesla then reproduced. And I'm not saying that he was copycatting everything, but I'm just saying, if you reproduce some of this tech, um, based on the connection that he had with other beings or not, who knows? But the thing is that when I started researching the brain, then I said, "Ooh, we have the circle, the polygon of Willis in our brain, and it's the one that is interconnecting all of our nerves in the brain. And when it fires at a very coherent level, it's creating the same pattern. You can see it as an angel, you can see it as the key of life, you can see it depends. But in this case, I saw how it made sense. Why? Here in our brain, we have the interthalamic adhesion. I'm pretty sure that you all guys have heard about the eye of Horus, and how it's connected to the pineal gland. Well, the pineal gland is not the eye of Horus. If we look at what the iris is, like the true eye of Horus, the iris, it is actually placed in the interthalamic adhesion in our brain. That interthalamic adhesion is bridging what we know as the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere through a wormhole, a biological wormhole. So, according to the mystery schools, this ankh wouldn't be activated like only with a very powerful tool, made of amazing metals. That would apply, but they would also translate it to their energetic body. So if I master my vital force, let's say my Kundalini, and then I want to build up the energy, what I will be doing is that I will be bringing the energy up to my feet. Then it will be coming on the back part of me, like this. Then reaching out to the center of the heart, then going back in time, and then I suck it back again to my heart and expand it. And then I create the ankh, energetically speaking. And then I also create it like this, because then you get the four planes, the four directions of, again, the cube, and then it spins. It's like the Vitruvius man. Leonardo da Vinci also knew what he was doing with when he drew the Vitruvius man. He was talking about actually how you expand from the incubated state into the what is known as the Christ consciousness. And when I talk about the Christ, I talk about the plasma body, because about the rainbow body, because the crystal, when light hits to the crystal, it creates a rainbow. And the properties of the crystal refracting the light is consciousness. Why? Because, for instance, if I shake Frank's hand, we already exchange codes inherently. We exchange codes. Our fields interacted. So he won't be the same Brent, and I won't be the same Yssah. For good, I hope. But the thing is that we have already interacted in one's other field. That is refraction, because then light is not heading the same way. Our consciousness will be heading slightly influenced, slightly influenced. And when we know the dynamics of how the plasma works in that way, then I'm not afraid of bringing all the energy to me. It's like if I want to create the vacuum, if I want to create a 0 point field, I won't be like, no, this is your field, this is mine. Don't come to me. I will say, no, come to me. This is why we are here. And then I start amplifying my magnetic field, amplifying my magnetic field, amplifying my magnetic field. And whatever I don't want to affect my field, don't worry. You will be torsioning it, because it's not like you're just bringing it in and that's it. You will be accessing to the primordial field that is within you, not somewhere else, not behind me. It's within. And from that non-evident field, you're bringing the counterpart, the other pole of that energy. And right here, you're harnessing both energies and generating your inner singularity. And you can do it in every part of your body. This is why there are 9 Tauruses. So you're bringing energy and you're refracting it. This is why when the rainbow body is generated, and all is due to the heart vortex. This is why when the rainbow body is generated, they see a lotus flower spinning and a lot of rainbow coming out, because they are building up from, I don't know, this wants to be shown, it's not moving. This position is not because they were protecting themselves. Actually, this is focalizing the energy at the heart vortex. And now, if you drew, like measure from the shoulder all the way to the elbow to the next elbow, and then to the shoulder again, we get the Pythagorean theory. So then you get 2 here, and at the center is the heart vortex. So they were funneling all the energy to amplify the heart vortex. Actually, one of the things that I do remember is that before the teachings of mummification, they were also self-inducing themselves into mummification processes, because the monks do that. But they were trying to attain a different process in which they would be choosing the next body that they would be filling in. It was a self-induced mummification. Where did the monks get it from? And what's the purpose of that? The rainbow body, have you seen it? There are different types of rainbow body. Some rainbow body, like the monk ends up like this side, and sometimes they would even put them inside of statues. They have done X-rays. But the thing is that this is not the rainbow body that I'm talking about, so don't worry. This is about more illuminating literally your body, like truly irradiating light, as we speak. I have shared that I had this contact with plasma beings when I was a little girl. They were showing, it was myself. It was not anybody else, along with some house, But the thing is that it was myself who was telling me, you're getting here. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I guess I will die at some point and then, become in another reality you. No, it was showing to me where humanity is heading to, becoming luminous beings. The water, the plasma body activation, all of this, I mean, you can call it theoretical, but actually it can be explained through equations of plasma physics, of the unified model of physics, So anyway, yeah, but I think that I need to wrap it up. I think I even extended a little bit more. But anyway, any questions? Any comments? Yeah.
Me?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, just two questions. You covered so much. Really, thank you for this. Uh, you were talking about a timeline in the past comes out and repeats itself. You said it was cyclical. Can you say more about what that is? A plainful spiritual uh, movement. You were saying also that there's a timeline that loops back on itself.
Oh, yeah. Well, for example,
Closed time loops is what you said.
yeah, the thing is that you've got a circle, right? You know, like when in the space-time fabric, there is going to be a time loop. A circle is generated from the very um, fabric of space-time due to resonance, you know? So it's like very specific PSU, which is quantum spherical units, start to phase lock with one another and creating a circle. So then what happens is that that circle torsion and then creates an infinite, you know? So then that is healthy when it's not set to a continuous boundary of nonstop. Yet when that quantum tunnels to other circles of the space-time fabric that are doing the same, because then you're not constricted to just one loop, which is what we think. Because now the consciousness in circling in that infinite is projecting itself to another infinite, and then and inherently it's becoming the continuum of space-time, you know? But then it's just about perception because this is happening regardless. But as we weren't taught, or it was erased from the equation, that there is that quantum tunneling process, then you say, oh, I'm just doing this and doing this and doing this. No, wait. I can just, project my consciousness to an equally resonant infinite and then, start experiencing and rendering my reality from there. So then I will already went beyond the algorithm.
Mind blowing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Yssah.
Thank you.